Hey guys, Paul here. Today we're going to talk about a safer PED use model. I think this is one of my more important videos, and something I've been giving a lot of thought to lately, about how to use PEDs in a safer manner. Over the years I've been more conservative with my approach, and I have found that harsher compounds really contribute nothing additional to growth. I'm going to talk about that today. Before I do, please take the time to subscribe to my channel. Get a lot of people watching my videos, not that many people subscribing. YouTube loves it when you subscribe. They help me out when you subscribe. So if you want to show your appreciation, that's the way you can do it. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button. If you want to get in contact with me, my contact information is below in the description. I am on Instagram at Pau Barnett. I am also on Gmail. If you want to email me there, at bigp3rd@gmail.com. All right, so let's dig into this a little bit. I think a lot of guys get obsessed with using harsh compounds, thinking that somehow tren and anadrol and things like that are extremely harsh and toxic to the body are somehow going to produce more hypertrophy. I was guilty of that in the past myself. When I was younger, I had an obsession with tren. I tried running high doses of tren, and all it did was make me sick. I got nothing out of it. I couldn't train. I couldn't sleep. And I probably took a few years off my life as a result of it. I think guys mistake side effects, feeling like shit, feeling amped up, whatever, with effects of growth. Just because tren makes you feel aggressive, just because tren makes it so you can't sleep, just because tren makes it feel like you're on fire 24/7, you sweat like a rhino in heat, doesn't mean it is causing more muscle protein synthesis. And at the end of the day, what are we after in the off season as bodybuilders? We want to grow and get bigger. And if it's not contributing to that or anything additional to that, and it's only adding to the risk and to the danger of having more side effects and long-term consequences, why use it? Most people don't ask themselves that question. What is fascinating, when you look into it, there's been studies done on this, and you can look it up yourself if you want. When you look into it, there is no significant difference between the various anabolic androgenic steroids in muscle protein synthesis generated. There's not much difference between test and tren. There's not much difference between test and anadrol. Actually, anadrol induces less muscle protein synthesis than testosterone. There's one for you. Nandrolone is a little bit more than the others. It's been my experience. But overall, it's marginal. So if there is a marginal difference between protein synthesis and the various compounds that we're using for bodybuilding, why take the risk to your health if you're not going to get much more growth out of it? It makes no fucking sense. Makes no fucking sense. Now, keep this in mind. There are secondary attributes to these drugs that we leverage at various points in our training. On contest prep, we do tend to risk it more with toxic compounds that promote better body composition. Tren, for example, suppresses glucocorticoids, thus cortisol, and during contest prep, we want to try to hang on to muscle. And what does cortisol do? It's catabolic. It breaks down muscle tissue. So tren suppresses that. Tren also enhances metabolism. So tren is applicable during contest prep. We risk that during contest prep, but we don't need that much to get those attributes. So we do have different compounds we can leverage for different goals at times, growth and cutting. But the majority of the year we want to grow and get bigger. Another thought too, if you use milder compounds, you don't have to cycle. The reason why dudes have to cycle off a fucking orals every 6 to 8 weeks is because they're so toxic to the body you can't tolerate them for any longer than that. But what if you could run primobolan for 20 weeks straight at higher doses than you were running the orals? If you were doing 6 weeks of Anadrol and then coming off for 6 weeks and then back on for 6 weeks, what do you think you're going to get more growth out of? Running primobolan for 20 weeks straight or doing Anadrol 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off, 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off? An example I like to give to people. So, people have this idea that what's separating them from their pro card is that they're not running some magical compound like DHB or whatever that Big Ramy might be running, and that they're going to magically grow all this muscle. So Big Ramy had, I like to use this example, had the most added stage weight that I think I've ever seen with a bodybuilder, professional bodybuilder, over the shortest period of time. I think it was a 6-year period of time that he added almost 90 pounds of stage weight. Now let's break that down. 90 pounds over 6 years is 15 pounds per year of new muscle, 1.3 pounds of new muscle per month. Think about that, guys. If you could sustain 1.3 pounds of muscle protein synthesis over a 6-year period of time, you're going to be Big Ramy in 6 years. Think about that. Now, do you think you have to take Anadrol or DHB or Mint or whatever, Trastolone, yada, 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 all these other exotic, IGF-1, all these other exotic compounds to make that happen? Probably not. It's part of its genetics, but I don't think using Anadrol and DHB is going to get you there much faster, if it does get you there faster at all. So another thing too we have to think about with bodybuilding is stress. And what I mean is physical stress, body stress management. This is why people blast and cruise or cycle on and off. It's because after a while, you hit the wall. You have to wash out that stress that you have accumulated over the course of using a cycle, from training, from the eating, and yada, yada. If you are freeing up physical resources from staying away from toxic compounds, you can probably tolerate harder training. You can probably tolerate higher calorie diets for a longer period of time. There's a thought. So the things that we want to protect when we're going on a cycle, the parts of our health that we want to protect, the things that we want to think about: kidney health, liver health, cardiovascular health, keeping our lipids low, preventing left ventricular hypertrophy, arrhythmias, neurotoxicity. We want to stay away from neurotoxicity causing psychological issues and brain damage. Prostate health. We want to avoid BPH, benign prostate hyperplasia. I've had it. It's no fun. I've had to have surgery to get it fixed. No fun. It's, having to get up and pee every 30 minutes at night. It sucks. Feeling like you got a fucking golf ball shoved up your ass. It sucks. Trust me. Prostate cancer. That can ultimately lead to prostate cancer. Diabetes, fucking up our insulin sensitivity. Burning out our beta cells in our pancreas. HTPA, that's optional. Most guys that go on steroids just, automatically, you just assume that you're going to be unable to make your own natural testosterone for the rest of your life. So if you're willing to bite that bullet, I have, go for it. There's the cosmetic things to consider: acne, hair loss, gyno. So when we're choosing our compounds for a cycle, a lot of this is individualistic. Different people react to things differently. I have some people are heavy estrogen converters, others are not. Some people get gyno, some people don't. Some people get high blood pressure, others don't. Some people get acne, others don't. Some people lose their hair, others don't. So a lot of PED use, and this is where I see a lot of shitty coaches fuck up. They don't consider the individual nature of each person and how they respond to different compounds. They don't even think about it. They just give that person the same cycle they used and go on with it. They don't consider how that person will respond to various things. It's not going to be the same as them. Sometimes it is. Most of the time it's not. So bodybuilding is a game of longevity. You're not Big Ramy. There's only one Big Ramy. You're not going to gain 16 pounds of muscle, of tissue in a year. You might gain 7 or 8 if you do everything perfectly. You might gain 5. So if you want to be the biggest freak in your gym, you have to have a 10-year plan. That's just the way it is. 5 years of PED use is probably not going to make you the biggest dude in the gym. It's more like 10 years of meticulous cycling, counting your calories, eating food, training properly, having some times where you're falling on your face, you get hurt, you get back up. And in order to do that, you have to stay healthy. If you've burnt yourself out using tren, using all these exotic toxic compounds, using orals way too much, you're not going to make it long enough to get that big. It's not going to happen. And also, just because you're young, I see young guys that do this, and they can get away with it. Think about it. When I'm an older guy. When I was 21, I could go out and hammer a bottle of tequila and get up and go to work the next day and be okay. I'd have a little bit of a headache, but I was fine. If I hammered a fucking bottle of tequila right now, I would be out of work for a week. I'd probably be in the hospital. Your body just can't process things as you get older as you could when you're younger. So that's another thing to consider too. Age plays a role in this. Now, there are times we want to roll the dice and use harsher compounds, but we want to save that for when we need it. That's to get over the hump. That's to get ready for a contest. That's not year-round. If you blow yourself out in the off-season when you don't need it, what are you going to do when you get to a point? I've seen some guys send me their cycles. They're on their second cycle, or they're only a year and a half, 2 years in, and they're 50 pounds off from where they want to be at their ultimate target weight, and they're already using 2.5, 3 grams of gear and all these toxic compounds. What are you going to do when you get stuck and have to get over the hump? If you're only 185 pounds or 220 pounds or whatever, what are you going to do when you have to get over the hump? Take 5 grams of gear? Take 10 grams of gear? Run a gram of tren? That ain't going to work, man. It will for a short term, but you're not going to last. So a safer model would be to pick stuff that causes the least amount of stress and the least amount of toxicity to our body. If we do that, then we can run things longer. What if you could run a cycle for a year straight? I'm pretty sure you could probably take 250 milligrams of test and 600 milligrams of Primo and run it for a year straight. And I'm not saying to go do it, and you got your blood work done at the end of the year, you'd probably be okay. You did that with tren and test, or a combination of tren, test, and anadrol, you wouldn't last 8 weeks. Maybe 12. And then you'd have to come off. And what do you think is going to give you more sustained growth? I hear guys talking about, like a lot of pros talking about when they first start using Primobolan that they have these growth breakthroughs. You know why? Because they can use Primobolan year round without any major negative health consequences. They figure that shit out when they get to be pros. Oh, God. So, using safer compounds, using reasonable doses, saving the higher doses, the harsher compounds for when you need to get over the hump, when the diet and the training alone aren't getting you over the hump. Using it to break plateaus, and that's only when you use it. Anyway, just a thought, something that you want to consider to be, if you want to last in bodybuilding, is to this is why I tell guys over and over and over and over again, stay away from the fucking orals in the off season. You don't need them. You're just burning yourself out. You only have so much gas in the tank before you run out. And you're going to pay the price when you do. And using orals is going to get you there faster. Use safer compounds and you'll last longer. And ultimately, in the long run, you'll probably get more growth from it. All right, guys. That's all I got for you today.